Hello, we're back after a long wait. We are here with the beginning of Fourth Wing, Fly, ... or Die. We're out here in my bower where you can hear all of the nature noises and the chicken noises and the traffic noises. But people have assured me that they don't mind, so it's a really nice day and we're going to be out here. We're going to keep this preamble pretty short this time because I know basically nothing about this book except for like what I've read in the blurb. And like one other thing, because I have been intentionally staying away from it. As soon as I knew that this was going to probably be another read-along, I have been staying away from any spoilers, from anything. I wanted to go into this completely blind. This is entirely arbitrary because sometimes I don't go into these books completely blind. Do you all have any idea how difficult it has been to resist watching all of my favorite booktubers talking about this book? Reads with Rachel has 2 videos out about this book, and I can't watch them. So I need to hurry up and read this to y'all so I can go watch all of those reviews that I have not been watching, and it's killing me slowly. This is a chunky one. It is chunky. I know that it has dragons in it, and I love dragons. I'm a dragon girly. One of the very first things I remember writing that was vaguely book-esque was a fan fiction of the movie Dragonheart, with which I was obsessed when I was like 11 years old.
1,000 years ago, there lived a man of honor and a creature of legend.
So, yeah. Glad to see they're making a comeback. But the only other thing that I have heard about this book is that the author was trying to make it a sort of accessible fantasy, a fantasy that people who are not used to reading fantasy can get into because, yes, sometimes high fantasy can be daunting. But I would just like to put this out here and say that I also write what I would consider very accessible fantasy. I am not going to go on a several-page tirade about my world building. You don't have to worry about that. My magic systems are usually pretty easy to understand, even the ones that have lots of rules. So if you're looking for accessible fantasy that's not necessarily romantasy, I might be the author for you. I know this is romantasy, that's the other thing I know about it. I do kind of resent the implication that the only way that fantasy could be accessible is through making it about romance, because romance is not the only, emotion that people feel. Romantic love is not the only thing. But, yeah, that's my, mini tirade here before we get started. Also, before we get started, I guess I should let people know what you're in for. I've already done a mini tirade, but now I'm going to explain what you're in for. And that is that here on this channel, we do these things called read-alongs, where I go chapter by chapter, walking you through the book, talking about all of the things that I notice as a writer myself, as a developmental editor, things that I notice that could help us make our books better by either noticing what the author of this book is doing well or what they are doing poorly and what they could improve. And of course, we also bring plenty of jokes, plenty of sass. It's like educational MST3K, but for books.
Well, some movies inspire you to make your own movie. This one inspires me to make my own grade.
I have a soda, I have a brand spanking new bag of chips, not even opened yet. Also what we do here is this little thing called Bad Book Bingo! Hooray! Bad Book Bingo, everyone. You know it, you love it. Now here on this channel, I try not to call any book just blanketly bad, because there's someone to love every book, and especially a book like this has so many fans. But flawed book bingo doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely. What is on our Bad Book Bingo card? It's gonna look pretty similar to the previous bingo card. I'll be real, I didn't change too much this time. But our categories are: why is it always the dumb bitches? This is my version of Too Dumb to Live, where you just kind of wonder how the character is able to feed themselves. Like, how do they go through life? Next we have The Blurb Lied. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Baffling magic system. Everyone praises the main character. Now, it's one thing to have a mentor or a lover praise the main character, but sometimes in these books you get everybody, even the villain sometimes, just talking about how amazing the main character is. And that's bordering into the area of, very clearly, the author wants you to think that their main character is badass, and so they just have to have everybody else praising them about it. We have awkward language choices. I'm pretty sure that just about any book could score awkward language choices. Minority there to serve the straight, white, able-bodied main character. Main character is the special TM. You'll know it when you see it. It's very popular nowadays. I don't know if it's gonna be in this book, though. Maybe we'll get a break.
Get used to disappointment.
Main character suddenly good at a high-skill activity like horseback riding or sword fighting or archery. Main character behaving badly with no fallout. This is a new one that I added, girl hate, where we see the main character just hates other girls for no good reason, or the book pressures you to hate other girls right along with the main character by the author making the choice to make any other female characters complete assholes. Next we have, do you think your reader is dumb? That will be a little bit more explained as we encounter it in the story. We have horrifying implications, one of my favorite ones, where something in the world building or, you know, the plot line will have just deeply horrifying implications if thought out to its logical conclusion. We have the free space, of course. We have horny. That is for any world or scenario or group of characters that are just horny, and that's it. Confusing world building or no world building in sight. Terrible plans for when the main character or the villain just have the worst plans and somehow it still works out. Confusing plot or no plot in sight. Fat equals evil, that's a favorite that I'm bringing back. Unhinged bullies, this one goes out to the bullies who just like show up and are straight up murderous immediately. Paper thin characters. Awkward sex scenes. This, to be clear, is for awkwardly written sex scenes, not characters who are maybe new or inexperienced at sex having an awkward time. I'd actually love to see more of that. Surprise baddie reveal. That's in like everything. Damaging SA tropes. Injuries don't matter. And finally, info dump, which in a high fantasy story like this, that's one of the things that can often happen. So let's see if this author who's writing an accessible fantasy still falls into the trap of the info dump. Alright, now we are going to read the dust cover, and then I'm going to get rid of the dust cover because it's slippery and difficult to hold. I probably should have just gotten the paperback because it's easier for me to hold, but here we are, too late now. 20-year-old Violet Sorengale was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, that is still hard to say, living a quiet life among books and history. Now, the commanding general, also known as her tough-ass Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre. Navarre? I'm not going to pronounce any of these words correctly, just so you're warned. If you've listened to the audiobook and know how these words are pronounced, I'm sorry in advance. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter. Like Xaden Ryerson, I still cannot get over how dumb that name is, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her to see the next sunrise. I mean, she's the general's kid. Shouldn't people not want to fuck with her? Anyway. Yet, with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly. The kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Might have to go inside. There's a wasp out here now, and I think it wants my soda. So if I go inside, that's why. Hopefully it will get bored and fly away. Please get bored and fly away. Please and thank you, little friend. It doesn't want me to read the dragon book. Maybe if I also get rid of this very shiny cover. This is the bland, boring version of this book, so there's nothing under the dust cover besides pretty gold. There's also a map inside. We got a map. Much better than the shitty map that was in Zodiac Academy. That one was pretty bad. I will say that these things at the top look like Skeksis. I don't know, like when I was a kid, I used to like maps in my fantasy book. I would like, after I read the book, I'd sit down and like trace the route that the characters went and everything. I don't do that anymore. I don't honestly really care about maps in my fantasy book. I feel like at this point, if I'm so confused about your world that I need a map, that maybe it could be clearer. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe the maps are good and amazing, but I don't really care about them so much. Oh my gosh. So much praise for this book. 2 pages worth of praise. We got book talk praise, and then we have industry praise. This is not her debut. I believe this is her debut fantasy, but she has also written 3 other books that are published. Got another map, just like of the Dragon School, presumably. Got lots of maps here, man. That is one thing about being traditionally published. They got the infrastructure to give you a really good-looking book on the inside. And it starts with quotes. I'm 50-50 on quotes. At least it's not quotes from the real world. I don't really like it when people use quotes from like our world, especially in their fantasy book. Mostly because it seems kind of pretentious to me. Like, look at this quote. Now relate my book to this like much better writer who I have quoted. But this is a quote from a book that exists within the world. A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead. Could do without it, that's fine. But hey, at least we get straight to chapter 1 instead of a prologue, which most fantasy books still have prologues, and it just, you guys know. You know how I feel about prologues. Alright, let's look at the opening lines. We love to do that. Conscription day is always deadliest. Maybe that's why the sunrise is especially beautiful this morning, because I know it might be my last. The blurb had us believe that at least she starts out the book thinking that she's going to be going to scribe school. But she's already pretty sure that she's like going to die. But also, maybe that's why the sunrise is especially beautiful this morning, because I know it might be my last. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world, but isn't it more usual for you to find the world like uglier on the day that you think is going to be your last day instead of more beautiful? I don't know. As a first line, this doesn't do anything for me. It's fine. All right, we get a little bit of the voice of the character right away. She's climbing stairs and sucks at it, even though she has been training for 6 months of intense physical training. But she thinks, I am so fucked. So that kind of gives us a little bit of a hint of the tone of her character and also the tone of this book. The language that it's planning to use clearly is not intending to be very flowery and over the top, you know, fantasy book language, which I think is one of the reasons that this book considers itself to be so accessible. Okay, so apparently she's been training for the Writer's Quadrant for 6 months. So we're starting out at a very different place than I thought we would be. That's not necessarily bad, but like the blurb implied to me that we were going to start out with her like finding out that she was going to be going to this dragon school. And now she's like waiting for the like choosing ceremony or whatever. Like we are starting way like further in than I anticipated we would be from the blurb. I don't know if that's good, bad, indifferent. It's just surprising. So one of the reasons I don't think this works for me is that it makes us skip the inciting incident. I'm thinking about it now, and this book doesn't really have one. It's sort of like the inciting incident happened off page before we got here. The inciting incident would be when she goes from living her life as a scribe, the life that she expected, to whatever causes her to have to change her trajectory. But her trajectory has already changed when the book started, so where is the inciting incident? I don't think this book really has one, and that is a problem. Weird to put an ellipse here. Again, I think we're just trying to make it very clear how voicey this is going to be. Basigiath, fucking fantasy words. War College isn't known for being kind to ... well, anyone. Why is that? Why do we gotta do that? Why not isn't known for being kind to anyone? Just leave it at that. We don't need the ... We're bordering on just like narrowly escaping info dump here. We do have a paragraph that just basically explains the school, and it's close, but it's not quite, because then we get some dialogue, so that we are breaking it up a little bit. So we got us a clumsy girlie, but I think we're going to find out it's because she does have some physical issues. She opens the big door to the general's office and just about falls over, and she grabs a couch for support. But the way that the sentences move, it seems like she opens the door and there's a couch right in front of the door. Like, she doesn't cross the room, she doesn't move into the room. It's just, door opens, I nearly fall, couch. Does that make sense? Like, sometimes you might have to throw in a little bit extra in there to be like, to place her in the space a little bit more. We do have a main character who's pretty sure she is like in major trouble. She keeps thinking about how she needs saving, how she's not equipped for this, which is definitely one way to kind of draw your reader into a situation where you have a character who's just like really, we don't know her that well because it's only page 2, so having her be certain that she's going to die is a way to like entice your reader to keep going, because they're like, I'll watch this character die, sure. But also, obviously, you know that we're going to get to know her. She's not going to die. She's going to go through the story. So you're wondering how. And that wondering how is a fairly enticing thing to get your reader into the story. It does make your main character seem like kind of a sad sack, though. if that's what you're going for. I'm definitely not eager to follow this main character because she's impressing me. I'm just kind of like, oh, how's this sad sack gonna make it out of this clearly very dangerous situation? Another thing this book is doing is we're in first person, and we're also in present tense. I've been noticing a lot of books doing that lately, especially contemporary, but even some fantasy, and fantasy is more commonly in past tense. So it's interesting to see how the styles are changing, and young people seem to be really liking present tense a lot more these days. Personally, I prefer past tense, and I'm going to probably keep writing in it. I just don't vibe with present tense, especially in a fantasy book. We are just kind of diving straight into like dialogue and conversation. Her sister is here trying to get their mother, who is the general, to not make the main character become a dragon rider. And it's just a lot of dialogue, which is fine, but we have not really set any type of scene whatsoever. I have no idea if this office is large, small, fancy, and ornate, or very plain. And the space a character occupies can tell you a lot about that character. Now, I'm not saying I need like huge dumps of like information about the space, but I don't know what any of these characters look like. I don't know what the space they're occupying looks like. You know, we just got that the mother is wearing a black uniform, but like, what does the sister look like? I have no idea. Personally, if we just got a smidgen more of like placing characters and a look at the space before we get really like deep into the dialogue. We do find out that apparently people can read minds in this world, but that power is prohibited. Now we're finally getting, page 3, we're finally getting a description of the sister. It is doing double duty, describing both the sister and the mom, because it's doing that thing. I feel like this has become the new describe a character in a mirror. You find a family member and describe what characteristics you have in common. I've used it too. It's not like I'm immune from this, but it is like becoming more and more prevalent as far as I've seen. Uh-oh. Have we got ourselves special girl hair? Her hair changes from brown and then slowly fades to steely metallic silver. Apparently she had a fever when she was a child that I guess like drained the color from her hair. I don't know, it's a magical world. But y'all know how I feel about special girl hair and eyes, where you can't just make your main character look like a normal person, can you, in these fantasy books? Authors seem unable to resist giving their main characters weird hair or eye colors. Now, I will grant you that this has actually been going on for a while, and special girl hair isn't anything new, but I see it so much nowadays that I'm wondering if it's just like people who are my age. Do y'all remember growing up in like the DeviantArt era where everybody was making these extravagant OCs with the most ridiculous hair colors, the most ridiculous rainbow eye colors, and, you know, just like very original OC, do not steal. And like, did we all come up from that and just never lose that desire to just make our OCs just have that little hint of so special, not like other girlsness, that we just can't resist anymore? Although it is pretty hilarious that we're using her mother says to her, pale skin, pale eyes, pale hair. And I'm like, oh, we are just using this to describe the character. This is not how humans talk. I wouldn't come up to someone I've known our entire lives. I wouldn't walk up to one of my younger siblings and be like, pale skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. Like, we know. Oh, okay, it wasn't even her that got sick. It was her mother who got sick while she was pregnant with her. And that gave her silver hair, I guess. Sure, whatever. This is magical world. I will say that we keep getting reminded that the main character is 20, but actually she's already reading a lot more like a 16-year-old. Now, maybe it's because she's maybe been very sheltered, staying in the library, being a scribe most of her life. But I feel like perhaps this author did want this to be more accessible to young adults, but made her 20 so that we can have sex scenes later. The people in the military who ride dragons can just, like, have their dragons kill people for fun? Excuse me? So you just go, is it that loud? Is that sanctioned? Like, if a rider tells his dragon to roast a peasant, does everybody just, like, go, oh, well, they're a dragon rider, so there's nothing we can do about it. I also hope we find out why her mom is just like so insane about this all of a sudden, because her mom's like, if you ever go back towards the scribe quadrant, I will rip your hair out, essentially. Like, I hope we find out why mom is so just unhinged about her clearly unfit daughter wanting to become a warrior. Or not wanting to become a warrior. She wants her to become a warrior.
Get used to disappointment.
Yeah, the language is definitely very contemporary. Double standard for the win. So I guess that's what we mean by accessible fantasy, is that it reads like a contemporary book. I do try to use, while I use very accessible like language in my stories, I also don't treat the reader like they're a teenager, because I want my books to be read by like anybody, teenagers, adults, whoever. I try to keep the language not anachronistic if possible. And by that I mean I don't have a fantasy world where people are saying things like double standard for the win. Sister decides to drop more exposition about the character by explaining to their mother what their mother should already know, and that the main character has already broken her arm this year and sprains every joint all the time. Which I believe this character is Own Voice's disability representation. Obviously for a magical world reason, because her mother had a fever and now the main character's hair is silver. But yes, once again, we have just like characters saying things to each other that they would definitely already know. Oh, we have that line from the cover already. Dragons don't bond fragile women, they incinerate them. Apparently Mom believes that because our main character has a disability, that makes her like better equipped to be a dragon rider. We get a little hint about the magic and how it's tied to the dragons. I did this in a book much earlier. That Child of Fire was my dragon book that I wrote ages ago and have since shelved, but it'll be interesting to see how similar they are, because I also had dragon riders able to channel magic from their dragons. They had a brother who died. His name was Brennan. He was also a dragon rider. Okay, this author also likes to use one-word sentences to get her point across. So we had, on an earlier page, we had what the hell, and then on the very next page we have get out lieutenant. Same thing. Let's see how often this author does this. Oh, by the way, totally forgot to mention, I'm wearing my Super Believe in You Tad Cooper shirt because I wanted to wear a shirt with a dragon on it. If you know, you know. But Mom is just like, yeah, by the way, I can't acknowledge you for 3 years because I'm your general and you'll be my subordinate. And also, everybody's going to be harder on you because you're my kid. I still am not seeing the logic here, Mom. Even the flawed logic of, because she's disabled, she'll make a better dragon rider. I need more than that. Like, why did you pluck her from her scholarly life and throw her into the dragon riding thing with such obsessive fervor? Does the mom just want this kid dead?
Is it supposed to be stupid?
It's not stupid. It's advanced.
Not sure why she came here, because then they just say goodbye and she leaves. So I am like, did she come here to ask her mother a question, to get some information, to say goodbye? I don't know. She just showed up so that she could hear her sister arguing with her mother. They had that whole conversation and then everybody went their own separate ways. Remembering why a character came into a scene, where they came from and why they came into a scene is important as an author. And even if you don't necessarily spell it out for us, we should be able to kind of like figure it out. Got a lot of eyebrow raising going on. That's a really common like crutch action, I guess you could call it. Everybody's got them. My characters are always smiling all the time. Very smiley bunch. But definitely something to go through once you've done your first draft, and look out for like repetitive description of like facial movements especially. Main character and her sister have gone back to her room where everything's already packed up. Because of her disability, the main character can't use a sword, but she's quick with daggers, which once again, I'm so over all of these female characters getting to use a bow or daggers. Those are the things that women can use. And I'm sure we're going to see lots of other women actually using like larger weapons. And if you're going to my comment section to be like, women can't handle swords, fuck off, you are incorrect. Please do the barest minimum amount of research. Now, because of her disability, I will grant you that perhaps she specifically cannot handle a sword, but it also is starting to feel like an excuse for her to be like lightning quick with daggers, because that's the cool girl weapon. If you want female characters who use big ol' weapons, my books might be the books for you. In The Wolf and the Hawk, we have Rayoni, who wields a giant fuck-off axe, and she's built like somebody who does that. And in Boots, we have Princess Joanna, who uses 2 swords. Sorry if this is just turning into an advertisement for my own work, but I just get so annoyed when we find another excuse for these women to only be like good at daggers. I'm sorry, if you sprain joints all the time, how are you so speedy with a dagger? Because that requires a certain amount of agility, and agility requires your joints not to sprain all the time. Apparently they have rubber in this world. Interesting, good to know. Alright. Because her sister's like, your boots aren't good. Here, you need some rubber-bottomed Dragon Rider boots. Her sister's also removing books from her rucksack, being like, this is too heavy. Why are you carrying this around? And she reads dark fables, which is definitely a reference to all this dark romantasy that everybody's so into on Book Talk. We find out that she has a book of stories about Venin and their wyverns, and I'm wondering if that's like foreshadowing something. Are we going to encounter these people later? But apparently they were part of a dark army. Love us a good dark army. I need to read faster. I'm going to run out of battery. Beginnings are always tough with these read-alongs because I don't know what's important and what I should like share with you so we can talk about it later if it comes up. Her sister gives her a special dagger sheath so that she can have all of her little daggers. Her sister finally, after repacking all of her stuff, is like, here, I'll braid your hair for you, old time's sake. And we again have to hear about how her hair is special and turns to silver, and her sister's like, you should have cut it, but I betcha she won't cut it because special girls don't cut their hair. Short hair is not what cool characters have. Not cool main characters. Side characters can have short hair. Once again, we have a female main character being encouraged to outsmart everyone. This is definitely giving me Light Lark vibes, where a character that's weaker than everybody else is going to a place where she expects to encounter a lot of very strong people, and she's being encouraged by a mentor figure to outsmart all of those people. Now we will go ahead and see, over the course of this giant book, how smart and thoughtful and calculating this character actually turns out to be. Because that's the question, isn't it? We're meant to believe that these characters are very smart, but then they act like total idiots the entire time. This doesn't make any goddamn sense. We know from the blurb that dragon riders are like getting rarer and rarer, that dragons are picking fewer riders, but she says that the other riders can kill you at any time. Why would your society foster that when you need dragon riders? Why would the fact that they can just off each other, and apparently anybody else, be fine in your society? It doesn't make sense. Like, maybe if you were overflowing with dragon riders, I guess if they were just allowed to kill each other, weeds out the weak, I suppose. But, like, why would it be if you're struggling, as the blurb suggests? If I hadn't read the blurb, I wouldn't know this yet. But as the blurb suggests that you're in need of dragon riders, so why would letting them kill each other offer you any kind of benefit? Oh, apparently they can kill each other at any time, except when they're asleep. If you kill someone while they're asleep, you get executed? What is this world? Oh yeah, go ahead and murder anyone you want, but if they're asleep when you do it, then you get executed. I'm already ready to give this confusing world building, because what the fuck is this society? This definitely just feels like, here's some rules to make this an exciting book, instead of here's some rules to make this a logical, functioning society. And you guys know I like culture building. Culture building is the way that I like to approach world building the most. And this culture already doesn't make any goddamn sense, and we're 9 pages in. We also find out that her sister has given her some dragon scale, like, chest armor, which I'm sure will come in handy to save her later. We get a little bit of nepotism, though, because she's like, I'm supposed to earn the daggers, I'm supposed to earn the armor, and her sister's like, yeah, you're the general's kid. Who gives a fuck? You get to start out with advantages. Her sister hugs her goodbye, reminding us one more time that this main character is totally very vulnerable and gonna get killed. In case we forgot, we find out that she thinks that the dragon riders are pretentious, egotistical fucks, which I guess I would think too if these people are just allowed to fly around killing whoever they feel like. Unless that person is asleep.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
We have probably the first leg of our love triangle. Her sister's like, find Dane Atios. And she's like, oh, Dane, I like him. He had soft eyes and a good laugh, which means he's probably going to be the soft boy leg of the love triangle, and therefore the one that is not chosen. She doesn't even bring him up herself. She doesn't even think, oh, that's right, I'm gonna be seeing my buddy Dane again. Her sister brings him up. Her sister is like, don't have sex with Dane. Like, he'll protect you, but also don't have sex with him, because then the other cadets will think that you slept your way to safety. And it's like, okay, so the other cadets are fine to think that she's cheating because she brought daggers and armor. But if she sleeps with the wrong person, then that's a problem. I think people are just like, what? We have all this modern-sounding anachronistic language, and then her sister says, don't let the wind sway your steps. Make up your mind how these characters talk. Hello, Hummingbird. Oh, now we have separatists. Boy, we're just throwing everything at us here. The guy who is like signing everyone in is a separatist's kid because there was a rebellion in the past apparently. Interesting. I'm definitely interested to find out how intelligent these dragons turn out to be, because she says the first rule of living in Basquiath is to never question a dragon. Oh, okay, we got to get the other leg of the love triangle mentioned in this chapter as well. Her sister says, stay the hell away from Xaden Ryerson. His father was the great betrayer that led the rebellion. If you're ever writing a book and you don't want to get too complicated, there was a rebellion or is a rebellion, there are rebels. Up here we go, we have another one. Stay away from him. Each word is its own sentence. And I'm running out of memory card. Oh my god, these chapters are kind of long, and also I just keep talking. I don't know if I can finish this in 4 minutes, so I might have to go inside and empty the memory card. That's annoying, but I'll be right back.
He's the greatest dragon slayer there is! I personally have seen him slay almost 2 dragons.
Haven't had this sort of challenge in some time.
Not likely to again.
And we're back. I really need to get a new memory card, a bigger one, so I don't keep having to do that. Everybody still seems like teens. They all feel like teens. She keeps calling them like men and women that she's in line here with, but it still feels so juvenile. It feels like, I mean, we've read 1,000 books like this where the main character has to go into some kind of trial or test or choosing ceremony. It's giving very Divergent vibes at the moment. But like, she had somebody behind her in line sniggering at her, and it feels like they're supposed to be teens, and they were changed to 20-year-olds, again, for the sex thing. Apparently people die so easy in this world, though. We must have a population problem, because we are culling people left, right, and center. Like, they have to cross this dangerous parapet. We keep hearing about it, but that's what's giving me the Divergent vibes. It's very much like, Trith, jump on the train! Jump into the hole to prove that you're dauntless. But they're climbing stairs to get up there, and somebody next to the main character is like, I wonder how many people have died on the stairs, and she's like, 3 people have died on the stairs last year, and I'm like, wow. Our population must just be overflowing if we're just fine with this. She has encountered a new friend, Rhiannon Matthias, and another new friend, the blonde guy, Dylan. I am kind of confused. Her sister told her, avoid friendships, form alliances. And I'm like, am I not allowed to be friends with the people I form alliances with? Because that seems like it would make my alliances stronger. Also, this whole theme from her sister doesn't actually mean anything. She immediately makes a bunch of friends. Like, she doesn't do the alliances, not friends thing. I think it was just buzzy, and probably the publisher liked it and was like, ooh, we could put this on merch. So we're keeping this line in the book. So she's talking with these 2 new people that she's befriended, and just like nothing all that important, like little details about the world. Also, they're talking about perks you get as a dragon rider, and one of them is that you can get married earlier, which is just a weird thing to include in your world building, except that this is a romance book. Oh, are we gonna, okay, we're setting up for a save the cat moment from our hero here. Her new friend, Rhiannon, has flat-soled boots on, and the main character's like, shit, she's gonna fall off. She's already, looks like, planning to trade boots with this person. Okay, 1 boot. They each get 1 of her boots. Still, we're definitely trying to do a save the cat. Our main character is heroic. Oh my gosh! Oh, I wish I could show you. There's a little lizard that just climbed on to the porch and then climbed back off, and he was so cute. I'm gonna call him Tad Cooper. He was so cute, y'all. I wish that there was a quick and easy way for me to like turn my camera if I see something cute and naturey like that. Just take my word for it. Adorable little lizard friend. Of course, the guy who was giving her a hard time in line is still here, still giving her a hard time. Because, you know, we gotta have some character that's just like a jerk for no goddamn reason. I don't know why they have this ridiculous gauntlet where the writer candidates have to walk across a bare parapet, and 15% of them, she says, fall to their deaths every time. And it's like, well, what if one of that 15% who just was having a really unlucky day or wore the wrong shoes would have been the most amazing dragon rider you've ever seen? Like, what does being able to walk across this slippery, narrow thing disapprove about you as a potential dragon rider. If someone can't manage to walk the windy length of a slim stone bridge, then they sure as hell can't keep their balance and fight on the back of a dragon. Alright, I ride horses, and yes, balance especially strength in your core are super important for riding horses. But my inability to walk across a slippery stone parapet would not preclude me from being a skilled rider. It's not the same. It's just a stupid, arbitrary thing that the author thought would be cool for the characters to go through. Uh-oh. Love interest alert. Love interest alert. You know it's a love interest because she is about to walk out onto this deadly challenge, and immediately she is so distracted. My heart simply stops. Sorry, ... stops. He's tall, with wind-blown black hair and dark brows. The line of his jaw is strong and covered by warm, tawny skin and dark stubble. That's kind of hilarious. I don't think I've ever heard anybody describe a jaw as covered in skin. Like, usually that's implied. And of course, when he folds his arms across his torso, the muscles in his chest and arms ripple. Yeah, we can't forget that every single romantic interest has to have the same goddamn body type in these books, and I am so over it. Yeah, she has a whole paragraph describing this guy and how exquisite he is. His features are so harsh they look carved, and yet they're astonishingly perfect. Like an artist worked a lifetime sculpting him. Girl, you're about to die. Can you please keep it in your pants? Oh, he has an eyebrow scar too? Of course it's Zayden Ryerson. Who else would it be? We also have what feels like a little homage to those fairy books, Court of Whatever and Whatever. Because I believe in those, the characters all have like cool swirly markings, and just conveniently in this world, the rebels were marked with also like body tattoos essentially. A rebellion relic curving in dips and swirls starts at his bare left wrist, then disappears under his black uniform to appear again at his collar, where it stretches and swirls up his neck, stopping at his jawline. So you know she's going to be exploring every inch of those sexy swirls later on. And he's tall. Oh my god. Originality has died. It has died a horrible death. We are not even going to try. He steps toward me and I look up. ... and up. You think being tall would actually be a disadvantage as a dragon rider? Like, yes, they mentioned that she'd have a hard time getting onto the dragon because she's short, but I'm sure there are, like, tools to get onto dragons. But then once you're up there, you don't want to be, like, so tall that it's easier to whip you off of the dragon. Like, being short with a low center of gravity seems like it would be in your favor as a dragon rider. He hates her immediately, because of course he does. We gotta get this hate-to-love train a-chugging along. Nothing about this romance plot is going to be original, I can tell already. It is going to be just the same thing that we have seen a million times regurgitated over and over again. Aren't we sick of it yet? Like, romance girlies, do you ever get sick of it? Do you ever get sick of just the same guys over and over, the same things over and over with a slightly different setting? Is anybody else behind her like, can we hurry this up? Can you stop having your sexual awakening right here, right now? We would like to get across. Oh, R.I.P. Dylan. I knew at least one of them, Rhiannon or Dylan, was gonna die, but Dylan just snuffed it. He just fell off. And then old sexy McSexpants gets in one more quip, and we're on to chapter 2, where she gets to finally walk across this fucking parapet. But we're gonna stop here. I have other things to do today. This definitely makes me want to get writing on my next fantasy project, though, because my goodness, the list of things that I plan to not do. I'll give it time to maybe get better, but oof. This is just, it just makes me depressed that we cannot even do one or two things differently. He has to be dark, he has to be super tall, he has to be super muscular, he has to hate her immediately and want her dead. But ooh, he sees something about her that maybe he considers. Like, I get it, we've seen it 8 million billion times. I like enemies to lovers, but you could do that and still have some variety of some kind. Please, I beg. Alright, now, I will see you for chapter 2, where hopefully she will get across this fucking parapet at that point, and we can start to find out some more about this world, and maybe why her mother wants her to do this for some reason, and yeah, like, what are the horrifying implications can we come up with? We're sitting down to read more dragon book with ferrets everywhere. Hello, Tendy. You already attacked me once today. We're going for 2? Alright. Hi. I'm a problem. Go on. Go play. Nigel is also here. You can't see him. He's just lying beside me because he was already on this chair. So I just kind of wedged myself in the corner so as not to disturb the precious boy. But let's keep going now with our dragon book. We are on to chapter 2. The quote at the top says, "There's a misconception that it's kill or be killed in the writer's quadrant. Writers, as a whole, aren't out to assassinate other cadets, ... unless there's a shortage of dragons that year, or the cadet is a liability to their wing. Then things might get ... interesting." From Major Offendra's Guide to the Writer's Quadrant, unauthorized edition. I am assuming what is unauthorized about this edition is all of the ellipses. Anyway, as you recall, Triss was having to jump on a train. No, wait. Was it Violet? I think her name is Violet, is having to walk across a balance beam. It's like essentially a part of the wall that is completely unprotected. Lots of her fellows will fall and die. Somebody already has. There's literally like carts below waiting to collect the bodies. This seems horribly inefficient, but I can only assume that their population is just enormous. Still waiting to find out in this book why our main character's mother decided that this was the right call for her physically unimpressive disabled daughter.
Get used to disappointment.
Why would you? Like, I get it that the writers get to be like the big muckety-mucks in society and get to be cool, but she says would rather chance their lives with the writers than choose the security of any other quadrant. Why would you not choose the security of any other quadrant? Like, unless the writers are the only people getting like food, shelter, other necessities of life, so what if they're the highest social class? Like, I'll be a peon. I will be a fucking peasant as long as I get to do my job, have a quiet life, and not have to deal with stupid obstacle courses that will get me killed before I've even gotten a chance to prove whether I'm good with dragons or not. Apparently they have multiple gods, and she shoots up a prayer to Zinal, the god of luck. I am sort of seriously doubting that the pantheon of gods is actually going to matter in the story. It's just kind of there to give like light flavoring to the fantasy world. In chapter 2, we have yet another person be like, "You're the general's daughter." And it's like, I get it. We want the repetition to annoy us because it's annoying her. But at the same time, it's just reminding us, the reader, of a fact we already know. And I don't think that it's really worth it to just repeat essentially the same scenario that she had downstairs as she's having now upstairs in the tower. It's literally basically a word for word repeat. You tell somebody her name and they're like, "OMG, you're the general's daughter." Apparently they know what open season is. I have a feeling that there's just going to be nothing. I'm just going to go ahead and give this odd language choices for the just absolutely no attempt made to have like a consistent tone for language already. Sometimes we sound like a full-on fantasy book and sometimes we sound like modern day teenagers. Still don't understand how your ability to balance on a rain-dampened, windswept parapet has anything to do with your ability to balance on the back of a dragon. So if your goal is to get dragon riders out of this, you are failing because you are killing many, many kids who would probably actually be excellent dragon riders because they can't balance across a wet balance beam hundreds of feet in the air. We learned the bully's name. His name is Jack Barlow. If you can cross it by any means, do you automatically win or do you have to be standing up? Like if you sit down with a leg on either side and scooch your way across, do you still get to be a dragon rider or is that considered cheating? Unclear. Ooh, I have a feeling we're about to get an info dump disguised as something else. So she's walking across, finally, took her long enough, and she's like, "I need to do something to calm my mind. I know, I'm a scholar. History calms me down." So this doesn't make it better. Just having her recite facts about the world to herself does not make it less of an info dump. I'm sorry. "I feel my lungs threaten to hyperventilate." I wouldn't say it's necessarily a factually wrong sentence, but it sounds weird when you read it. We've also said that the wind is howling like 3 times in as many paragraphs. Maybe come up with a different description for how the wind sounds. How about? I'm definitely giving this info dump because you are not disguising the fact that you're just dumping a bunch of information about their country and their wars and stuff on me by putting it in her talking to herself as she's crossing a parapet. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need this information necessarily. I'm glossing over it. I don't care about the names of their countries and why they're at war and with whom, because it's only going to matter if it matters to the character, if she's interacting with these things in the story. And if she interacts with these things in the story, then we can learn about them as they happen to her. I am one of those people who definitely goes to the school of, if it's not something the character knows or is interested in, that I don't probably need to have it as part of my world building. Because if they're not experiencing it themselves, they don't want to learn about it themselves and bring me along for the ride as they learn about it, then it's probably not actually that important to the story. Now, lots of people might disagree with me. So, let's say that you did want to have all this information about countries and wars and stuff like that in your book, but this is not the way to do it. This doesn't make your info dump any less info dumpy. Well, then I would spread it out. Spread this information out. And also tie it to the character, like, yeah, we're tying it to the character in that she's reciting it because the author has decided this is what calms her down. But instead, while she's up here, maybe she looks around, maybe she glances to the west and she's like, I can almost see insert Fantasyland name from here. And that will segue you into giving us, the reader, a little explanation of the land to the west. And you can just tell us about it. Just don't dump it for a frickin' page. She's going on for a page about their world, everything's names, how many people are fighting with each other. We don't care, or at least I don't care. Here she mentions a place that produces unique crystalline gems capable of amplifying minor magics. Cool. Instead of this, if she ever interacts with those gems, then explain them. We don't need to hear about them right now. Now, of course, you might be going, but Julian, foreshadowing. This isn't foreshadowing. This is an info dump. This is you just having her say information about your world. This is not integrated foreshadowing like this author seems to think it is. She scrapes the rain from her face. Scrapes it? Scrapes it how? With her fingernails? Like, that's such an odd description. Squeezing the muscles of my legs together for balance. What are we describing here? Because everything I am picturing is not helping you balance. Unhinged Bullies, I'm giving it to it right away. Unhinged Bullies, where is it? She looks back to see the bully guy who is following her, and he has turned around and is throwing other cadets who are coming after him off of the wall. So he yeets some other unfortunate guy off of the wall. I don't know how this proves that you're a good dragon rider. He yeets some other guy off, and then he turns around and he's like, I'm coming for you. And she's like, oh shit. And she keeps on fucking reciting information about the world. She doesn't go, oh man, I just watched him murder someone and now I'm gonna be next and I need to get moving. She goes, cool, let me keep reciting about my world building. It's real important world building, y'all. Here I would eliminate my hands. So she's slipped, she's fallen. My hands scramble for purchase as my left leg dangles off the edge of the bridge. I would say I scramble for purchase as my left leg dangles off the edge of the bridge. Personally, I think that it's implied that you're using your hands to scramble for purchase, so you don't need to say that it's your hands that are specifically doing that thing, especially since you clarify that one of your legs is busy hanging off of the bridge. It would also be nice if this character had some goal besides not die. As far as we have gotten in this story, which is granted only chapter 2, her only goal seems to be don't die. And so every time she falls down or every time she slips, she thinks to herself, I'm not dying today. And I'm like, cool, great, love that for you. But what are you living for? Give us some hint of what she wants out of life besides not death. And I know that you're saying, well, sometimes, in real life, that's all you want. But she's a fictional character, and to want to follow her, I would personally like to know what, besides just, I don't want to fall and die, drives her. What could she say to herself, like, I'm not going to fall because I want to prove my mother wrong. I don't want to fall because fuck this bully guy. I don't want to fall because actually I'm really excited to meet a dragon. Like, anything. I don't want to follow because I haven't finished reciting all of the history for the reader yet. Also, are there any rules that this Jack guy can't get to the other side and then turn around and just throw every single other person who comes along off of the bridge? Because he doesn't seem to have been scolded for throwing at least one person off. Yeah, she mentions that, like, in the dragon squadrons, the weakest link is often killed off, which to me means that there's an opening for a new weak link until you have everybody killed off, except for, like, one person. But she says he either thinks I'm the weak link or he's an unstable asshole who just enjoys killing. And I'm like, cool. In this world, maybe we'll find out, what stops a dragon rider from just being a psychopathic murderer who just likes killing people, and because he can, everyone assumes that, oh, he's just culling the weak, versus, like, he's a psychopathic murderer who's using this as an excuse to kill people, and those people might have actually been good and skillful dragon riders, and you're instead letting a psychopath succeed. I'm gonna have to give this horrifying implications, because even if they explain it, at this point, I don't think it's gonna be enough. So far we've already got, on Chapter 2, Horrifying Implications, Unhinged, Bullies, and Info Dump. She has now slipped a third time, and, like, that's maybe one too many slips. I know the rule of threes, but the thing that keeps happening to her is that she keeps slipping. And so maybe, like, try to vary it up a little bit. Like, maybe one time the wind blows her over or something. Oh, we can't go too far without the one-word sentences. Just about there. But of course, our main character has to have this last badass moment. So of course she gets to the other side, and she whips around and grabs out one of the daggers that she has because she's the general's daughter, and threatens the psychotic bully with it. She threatens his genitals specifically. He's, like, filled to the brim with just the most murderous fury, and I have no idea why. The rules are just confusing and basically exist so that the main character can be in danger sometimes and not in danger other times, because now that they've reached the other side and there's a commanding officer there apparently, now Jack can't kill anybody because you're not allowed to murder each other in the presence of an officer, because that diminishes your squad. So if you want to murder your squad mates, you have to do it when nobody's looking, and also you're not allowed to do it when they're asleep. And yes, all of these rules definitely just exist for the main character to be like, oh, he can kill me sometimes, oh ho ho, he can't kill me now, I'm safe, I'm touching ghoul, or whatever it is, you know, when you were playing tag as a kid and there was always like a safe point you could go to. That's what this reminds me of. By the way, I think they should have to wrangle ferrets, not dragons. What do you think of this book? You think you just want to attack Mummy is what you think. Apparently, he can't kill her because there are officers present, but she can threaten to chop off his manhood. That's fine. So bodily injury to each other, totally allowed, just not the killing part. Got it? Chai Chai? You got the rules? The very clear and totally sense-making rules? Yeah, totally. My God, the rules of this world are the stupidest thing I've ever heard. One of the officers comes over and tells Jack, you want to kill her, you'll have to do it in the sparring ring or on your own time. Murder on your own time, kid, alright? Also, apparently Jack could, at this point, just turn around and kill everyone else who comes across the bridge. Because the officer says that because Jack has not technically made it onto the section of the wall that's sheltered again, he's not a cadet yet, but she is. So he can't kill her, but she could kill him, because apparently cadets are just allowed to kill with impunity. So, like, but apparently he's also allowed to kill other non-cadets, so he could just turn around and kill everyone else who comes along on the wall balancing thing. It just makes no goddamn sense. Who read this far in the book and was like, yeah, alright, we've talked about it before, how it's okay if your book is a little bit bonkers if it makes sense with the internal logic that you have built up. But you have to have some internal logic that feels like it would make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why would they, in a world where dragon riders are valuable members of the military and also becoming more and more rare, why would they be constantly encouraging these people to kill each other? Yeah, we have to weed out the weak. There are plenty of ways to weed out the weak without letting them kill each other. Now, maybe I can bite my tongue and they're going to interrogate that. And the main character is going to be like, this world is dumb. Why is it run this way? I need to put an end to it. The way that the dragon school is run is idiotic and dangerous and doesn't help the population. But I am sitting here to tell you right now that I seriously doubt that this book is actually going to explore things like dismantling dangerous systems in a society. I think this book is pretty much interested in having these ridiculous systems so that the main character can struggle around them, and we always have the threat of death lurking for her unless she's touching the safe zone and is near an officer or is asleep. I feel very good about giving this one Unhinged Bullies because she decides not to chop his balls off because she thinks that chopping his balls off is going to make him even more angry with her. He doesn't have a reason to be angry with her, A, and B, he's taking that no reason to be angry with her to the extreme that he was already going to kill her, so, like, I don't know how he could possibly get more threatening. That's the end of the chapter. He promises to kill her later because we gotta have an unhinged bully. We cannot do this type of story without an unhinged bully. We're getting so desensitized that we can't just have normal bullies anymore. Just people who are jerks, not people who are straight up trying to murder our main characters. It's losing all meaning. Me saying murder so many times is losing all meaning. But, I mean, oh my god, look at how chunky this book is. Alright, I need to go put the ferrets away, and then I'll come back and we'll read more today because I've got nothing going on, and I really need to read as many chapters as possible to try and get this read-along out and any semblance of speed. So I'll see you for the next chapter in a little bit.
Who are you?
No one of consequence.
I must know.
Well, that's okay. I'll just tell you. Tell you the names of my patrons, that is. Patrons like July, Bird Anonymous, Sunny Shy, Nico, Saga, Sarah, Kat, 78 kilograms of shade, Veda, Ingrid, Roma, Pantsing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Maria, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Celia, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, The Unraveled Legion, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah H. I'm so glad that these patrons have decided to reveal their identity by helping me out over on Patreon.